Kevin Martin here, your UT admissions guide. This is the fourth video of a four-part series talking about tips and strategies for maximizing your transfer admissions chances to the University of Texas at Austin. So in this final video, I'm going to discuss putting everything together. So the first three videos, we talked about Essay A, the statement of purpose, Essay E, the issue of importance, and finally that expanded resume. So consider these tips as you're trying to put the final touches on your UT Austin application. So my first piece of advice, and this is true not just for transfers, but also first-time freshmen, and for applicants at selected prestigious universities nationwide, is your application items should read like one giant whole rather than individual separate parts. So recognize that admissions reviewers are going to look at kind of the totality of your application. First, they see what you submit on Apply Texas, so that's your courses, number of hours you have, your GPA, what university you're at, and then they move on to the essays, the expanded resume, and then finally any optional items you submit like the recommendation letters or SAC. And so it's very important to integrate your application and make sure all these different pieces tie together. So again, don't choose an SAE that's just kind of totally out there and not related to the rest of your application. And recognize that SAA and SAE, for example, can kind of fit together. And so if you're talking about a special circumstance in SAE, you can elaborate and expand upon that as your issue of importance for SAE. Or for example, for your transfer resume, you can also use both of those essays to talk about and expand upon the things that you highlight in your resume. So especially if you're doing things like independent study or any kind of research, or you have an NGO that you created, a business that you run, those are all ways that you can kind of tie all of these pieces together. Because after all, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but college admissions is an argument, and you're arguing why you deserve a space at UT Austin, and specifically for your first choice major, because UT Austin is looking for the number of available spaces for your choice of major and the number of applicants who are applying, and then that's how they draw the line based on your GPA and your application score for the essays, resume, and the rest of your application. Secondly, that point is especially important because there is no typical transfer student. I've mentioned before, but there's a much wider range for transfer applicants than there are for first-time freshmen. And so one part of your argument is to demonstrate how you're going to bring a diverse perspective to class. So I mentioned in essays A and E in your resume how you need to highlight your strong suits, point out clear reasons where you're coming from, what your current situation is academically, personally, financially, and where you want to go and how UT Austin can help you achieve those goals. But it's a two-sided argument, and so you're not, just saying like, oh, I think UT's a great place, but you need to tell UT why they should invest a space in you as a person. Thirdly, since academically, they're not UT Austin, and this is true for a lot of selective universities, they're only going to look at your college GPA. So that includes all of the courses that you've taken, not just your courses after you finished high school, but also anything from dual credit. But this also includes, in addition to dual credit, they're not going to look at your rank or your test scores. So it's not that high school rank, your high school GPA, nor your test scores. And so what that means is UT only has one academic factor to look at. There is no kind of national level exam for transfer students. And so for that reason, your essays and your resume are all the more important because they have less criteria to go off to assess you academically. And so again, use those essays to explain anything that was going on educationally, or maybe there was a poor grade or a poor semester you've had. And so you can tie your application together by discussing any of those special circumstances. My fourth piece of advice is about recommendation letters. So recommendation letters are completely optional. I talk about this in other videos for first-time freshmen. I also discuss this at length in my book, how most recommendation letters don't make a difference in an applicant's admissions chances. The reason being is that most letters don't add a new perspective to the applicant's profile, or they're just, the letters are just kind of reiterating or regurgitating what the reviewer's already seen on the essays and the resume. However, for transfers, recommendation letters can be useful if they are adding a unique perspective to your application portfolio. So this could be a supervisor at work, someone that you may have done, kind of freelance or contract work with. If you're in the military, this could be a commanding officer. I've also worked with athletes, so student athletes could secure a letter of recommendation from their coach or someone that they work closely with athletically. Or, and this is especially true if you want to tie your reference letter into your first choice major, choose a professor from a related course that ties in to what your current or future studies are going to be. So those are all ways that a reference letter can help you, but again, it's not something that you should stress about. There are no extra points that are given simply because you're submitting an extra recommendation letter or an extra essay. My final piece of advice is reviewers only know as much as you tell them. So they can't assume anything. They can't assume, if you have one bad semester, they're just going to say, like, oh, I had a bad semester. And, they're not going to know the circumstances around that unless you discuss that in an essay or providing a recommendation letter. So admissions reviewers aren't mind readers, and if you feel like something should be included, then definitely include it. It's okay to talk about mental illness. It's okay to talk about struggles at home, or maybe you've changed environments or moved houses a lot. Perhaps you were affected by Hurricane Harvey. These are all things that you can discuss, and again, it's within this larger context of arguing why you deserve a space at UT Austin and why your current situation is less than ideal and you're not able to best achieve your current or future academic or professional goals. So that's all I have for you today. Again, if you like this video, please subscribe to my UT Admissions Guy channel. You can also find information about my book, Your Ticket to the 40 Acres, and my course, Getting into Texas Universities, in the information section of this video. You can also complete my questionnaire to receive a free consultation on your admissions chances, and we can discuss how we can help you maximize your admissions chances to UT Austin. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.